A couple weeks ago, I gave a talk, which I now call the controversial talk. Some people were really happy with the talk, and some people were really unhappy with the talk. But regardless if you were pro or against the subject, it brought forth a much deeper issue, at least for me to ponder. An issue that I want to talk with you about today, and that's the topic, the subject, the issue of freedom of belief. Freedom of belief. Finding my soul's freedom. And what perfect timing, actually. It always works out this way. Divine timing with July the 4th, just being a few days away, our national celebration, right? Of our independence and of our freedom and liberty. You do know in this country that you're free to believe whatever you want to believe. I know some of you are already arguing with me in your mind about that, but you're free to believe whatever you want to believe. There's a difference between freedom to believe and freedom to do, right? Yeah. We'll get more into that in this talk. Well, guess what? It's also true in unity. You're free to believe whatever you choose to believe in unity. I think that's why a lot of you are here today, yes? Yes. If you had been satisfied with your traditional religions, for those of you who grew up in traditional churches, with what they were telling you to believe, you probably wouldn't be here this Sunday morning. But unity is different. New thought is different when it comes to saying what it is you should or should not believe. In unity, there is no dogma. There is no creed. There is no doctrine. Yes, we have 5 core beliefs, but it's even okay to disagree with those. Which, if you go to seminary, you find that there's lots of lively debates, even around the 5 core beliefs. One of the most popular sayings of our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, what people like to quote the most, well, there's so many sayings that we like to quote about him. One of the all-time favorites is he said, "I reserve the right to change my mind. In everything that I'm teaching, I reserve the right to change my mind." He too wanted to be free, to continue to develop and refine his belief system. He didn't want to be held to anything that he might have said or written down. And I believe that's what draws so many of us to unity. Unity in itself is even unique within New Thought. We broke with the New Thought Alliance way back, right after the turn of the last century, because the Fillmores didn't want to sign on to certain doctrine that the New Thought movement had. They didn't want to agree to this overall statement of what defined New Thought. And certainly, even before that, leaving Christian Science, which was founded by Mary Baker Eddy, a lot of the people who started religious science and unity and divine science said, hey, don't tell me what to think. For those of you who are not familiar with Christian Science, you only can study what Mary Baker Eddy taught. When you get up in church, you can only say her words with no interpretation. And so, what do some free souls do when they're in that kind of situation? Even though she's the foundation of all the truth that we teach in New Thought, people rebelled against that, right? I want to think too. I want to develop my thought system, my personal spiritual credo. And that's what drew me into unity. We're all true students on a spiritual journey, trying to make sense of it all without being told what we should or should not believe. So when I get up here on a Sunday morning and give you my opinion on a subject, sort of where I've come up to in my spiritual journey so far, it's just that, right? An opinion. And that might be disappointing to some of you who want your leader to tell you what to do. But like I said, you're in the wrong place. That's what you want. The good news is in unity is that you can agree or disagree with anything that's said here. Actually, actually, we can agree to disagree. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I like it. You know, we're absolutely free to believe whatever we choose to believe. You happy about that? Is that good news to you? No one here is ever going to tell you what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to feel, what you're supposed to say, or what you're supposed to do. We might give you strong encouragement and suggestions. So now I want to talk to you a little bit this morning about what does it mean to find your soul's freedom, because I think we really do. You know, if you listen to the lyrics of the song that Arif sang to us earlier, for many of us, our natural inclination towards freedom may have been squashed somewhere along the way. And so we have to find our soul's freedom. We've all been created to be free will beings. God didn't want little robots to just automatically love the divine. We can always choose in every circumstance what we're going to believe and what we're going to do. So how do we find our soul's freedom? And remember, you can agree or disagree with anything I say this morning. So breathe. You don't have to even agree with this whole premise that I'm going to give you. Does that make sense? No matter what, you can still be a part of unity, even if you disagree. So let me ask you, do you feel free right now?
Yes.
If not, you know, this is a great day for beginning that road to your spiritual freedom. But H.L. Mencken once said, the average person does not want to be free. He or she simply wants to be safe. So going on this journey isn't necessarily a safe experience. It isn't necessarily a comfortable experience. But it's an experience that I believe we all one day will take. In Dr. Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth, which is really considered one of the primary textbooks of unity, because it outlines all the unity beliefs in it, the very first chapter is titled, Liberty or Bondage? Which? Liberty, bondage or liberty, which? I'm getting it backwards. So this is the first question that faces all true students, I believe, on the spiritual journey. Do you want to be free, or do you want to continue to live in bondage? You know, my answer to that question, my journey into spiritual freedom is the affirmation, have thine own way with me, Lord. Have thine own way. Have thy way in my thoughts, have thy way in my feelings, have thy way in my words, have thy way in my actions, have thine own way in me, Lord. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 31, Jesus said, if you continue in my word, and you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth. And what? And the truth will make you free. The spiritual truth is that I have God with me. God is everywhere present. I live, breathe, have my being in the substance of God every moment of every day and night. And it's that knowledge, that awareness that's going to make me free. Let me ask you, do you think freedom means I can do, I asked you this before, anything I want to do? Yes, in a way. You're free, your ego's free to go. But is that true spiritual soul freedom? To do whatever it is that the little I wants to do. I've heard people say, this is my life and I'll live it as I please. You can't tell me what to do with my life. I'm a free person. How dare you try to limit me? This is very common, folks, in adolescence, right? When, you're moving from that place of childhood into adulthood, you have to go through this process. It's part